John 5:6. Hunc cum vidisset Iesus iacentem, et cognovisset quia multum iam tempus habet, dicit ei vis sanus fieri? When Jesus had seen this man lying there, and when he had learned that he had already a long or great amount of time, we have to understand here, in his condition, he says to him, "Do you wish to become healed or to be healed?" We're continuing on here with the story at the pool of Bethesda about this man that Jesus is going to heal in just a moment. And the first thing we need to notice is that cum introduces some subjunctive verbs here. We've talked about this before, but cum can appear with the indicative or with the subjunctive, depending on its meaning and function in a sentence. When it indicates the general circumstances under which the action of the main clause occurred, we use a subjunctive verb. In this case, the pluperfect subjunctive, to indicate that these things happened before another also past action. So this is more than past that is being indicated here. And of course, that's what pluperfect means. When Jesus had seen this man that we've just introduced in the previous verse, iacentem here is modifying hunc. When he saw him lying there, lying in that spot, something like that, we need to supply. And here's our second subjunctive verb. When he had learned or had perceived or had understood that, and we've talked many times about how quia frequently introduces indirect speech in the Latin of the Vulgate, which often eschews the infinitive accusative construction, which you would find more commonly in classical Latin. When he had recognized or understood or learned that, we have to supply, that is the disabled man. And here we switch into the present. We might expect a different tense, but this is probably what we would call the historical present. That is the present tense used to describe what is strictly speaking a past action in order to lend the narrative a certain amount of added vividness. When he understood, so I'll translate into English the way that we would say this in English, but just note that it's a present tense. When he understood that the man had had a lot of time, multum tempus, had a long time, and we've got to supply here, in infirmitate sua, from just the last verse. That's understood here. When Jesus understood or perceived that this man had been in his state of disability for a long time, but again, this is just understood from the previous verse. He says, in that moment, another historical present, to him, in the dative case, of course, we've seen that many times. Here's our quotation. Vis sanus fieri? This is a question. Do you wish to become or to be well, healed, whole, we might even say. Fieri, now, you may remember, supplies the passive infinitive of facere, to do or to make. Fieri, to be made or to happen or to be done. Do you wish to be made well? Do you wish to become well? We would say, do you wish to be healed? Probably more idiomatically in English. Now, it may be worth reviewing, if you haven't looked at them in a while, the forms of this irregular verb, welle, in the present indicative, let's just say. Of course, it has forms in other moods and voices and tenses as well, but we'll just look at the most common ones, which are probably the present tense ones. In the first person singular, volo, I wish or I want. Second person singular, that's the form we have here. Vis, vult. You might remember the phrase Deus vult, which was used during the Crusades. In the first person plural, volumus. Second person plural, vultis. And third person plural, volunt. They wish, they want, etc. So this is the form we have here again, vis, with that macron there. Vis sanus fieri. Do you want to be healed, to become well? is the question that Jesus is directing at this man. We'll see what happens in the next verse.